See this right here? This is the OnePlus 11 and I've been getting to know it pretty intimately for a couple of weeks now. We've shared happy moments, sad moments, arousing moments. Arousing as in evoke an emotion, not the horny stuff. Ahem. The OnePlus 11 will set you back 729 quids or 799 quids if you want to beef up the specs with a bit more memory and storage. But should you spend that money on the OnePlus 11? Well, here's my full review, and for more on the latest and greatest tech, please do poke subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! Now first up, I gotta say, this is probably my favourite OnePlus smartphone design in quite some time. You got a glass front and back as usual, with a stainless steel frame which bleeds into that arse end to form the camera bump, although there is a tiny seam visible, which is a bit of a shame. The frosted rear is grippy and good at masking smudges and fingerprints, which is good news if you are particularly oily. And the back end is constructed from Gorilla Glass 5, which is still in perfect nick a couple of weeks on. As for the front end, well, this is protected with a bit of Gorilla Glass Victus, but I have found on other smartphones that use this that it does tend to scratch up rather easily, hence I've left OnePlus's pre-installed screen protector in place. This is, however, starting to bubble up a bit towards the top end, so it'll probably be getting ripped off pretty sharpish. And you do have an official IP rating with the OnePlus 11. Sadly, it's not fully water resistant, it's IP64 rated, so splash resistant and absolutely fine when it comes to dust and other particly bits. But I've given this thing a serious steaming in the shower and, plenty of splashing and everything, and it's been absolutely fine, no bother. On the software side, you've got OxygenOS 13 based on Android 13 with 4 years of OS updates and 5 years of security updates, making it suitably future-proof. I've already done a full video expressing all of my thoughts on OxygenOS 13, all those best new bits crammed in there, etc. So go check that out for all you need to know. I won't repeat myself here. What I will say though is that OxygenOS 13 has been behaving itself remarkably well. I've seen pretty much no glitches whatsoever in the 2 weeks I've been using this thing as my full-time phone. The only real issue I've had is around the Bluetooth, so occasionally, for instance, I'll be using my OnePlus buds, I'll put them back in the case, put it in my pocket, and yet the Bluetooth will still reckon it's connected to the buds and refuse to actually play anything through the speakers. And then the Bluetooth audio can get a little bit choppy when it goes a bit funny, but all you need to do is the standard tech solution, switch Bluetooth off and on again, and then it's fine. Hopefully a bug that'll be squashed in an update soon. As for your storage, you've got 128 or 256 gigs of space, UFS 4.0, so nice and nippy, although like almost every other flagship phone, there's no micro SD support. As for the in-display optical fingerprint sensor, well, this has been working an absolute charm. Nice and dependable, very responsive indeed, fast to act. Only really muffs up when my pinkies are a bit moist, but even then, you've got the fantastic face unlock to fall back on. Now the OnePlus 11 6.7-inch AMOLED display boasts a bit of fancy pants LTPO 3.0 tech. And this serves up the next level of variable refresh action, skipping merrily from 1Hz all the way up to 120Hz, depending on what you're up to give you a smooth UI experience, while also saving power when a faster refresh rate would be overkill. And in the couple of weeks so far that I've been testing the OnePlus 11, I haven't seen any glitching, juddering, tearing, any kinds of display issues whatsoever. That LTPO tech has been working a charm, keeping everything nice and smooth. How much of an impact does the energy saving aspect of it actually make? Well, it's hard to say for sure, but what I can say, spoiler alert, is that the OnePlus 11's battery life is chuffing marvellous. So it probably is making some sort of difference. And as you'd expect from a flagship smartphone these days, the picture quality is proper lush. You've got a 3216 by 1440 pixel resolution, so nice and sharp. You've got wide viewing angles, super powerful on the ultimate brightness level, so you'll be able to see what you're doing outdoors, no worries. 10-bit color reproduction, Dolby Vision, HDR10+, the works. The stereo speakers are certainly good enough for a bit of video chatting, YouTube, whatever you fancy, and I had no issues with the Bluetooth 5.3 streaming either, besides the stuff I was already banging on about. You got support for LHDC and all of the major audio codecs. You got a good bit of Dolby Atmos action on there as well, so sound quality is top notch. Now my OnePlus 11 not only has Qualcomm's Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 stuffed inside, but also a rather generous 16 gigs of DDR5 RAM, so it's just a little bit quick. Everyday app shenanigans are smoother than my scalp, while gaming on biggies like Genshin Impact also impresses. Pushed all the way up to the higher detail settings running at 60 FPS, I think I noticed maybe one frame drop the entire time I've been playing Genshin Impact. The OnePlus 11 does heat up a little across the back end when you've been gaming for more than about 15 or 20 minutes, but it doesn't get any worse than that even when you hit the 1 or the 2 hour mark. That's partially down to the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2's general efficiency and partly down to OnePlus's cryo velocity vapor chamber cooling system, which is the biggest yet in a OnePlus phone and accompanied by all of the usual graphene layer shenanigans. A big up also to the OxygenOS gaming mode, which is absolutely packed to the tits with excellent features. You can tweak the screen sensitivity, you've got various performance and lack of distraction modes. Overall, cracking stuff, but even better is the battery life on this bugger, because you've got a 5000 mAh cell crammed in this thing. That's the same size as the 10 Pro from last year, just a weeny bit bigger than the 10T 5G. And yet somehow the battery life on the OnePlus 11 is significantly better. Even with my standard sort of 5 to 6 hours of screen on time in a single day, I still found that the OnePlus 11 would have roughly 40% charge left at the end of a very long day. And that includes plenty of camera use, including generally about an hour of Skyping or Zooming or whatever. Good bit of podcast and music streaming as well when that screen is hibernating, and yet still, yeah, 33 to 40% by the time I finally collapsed face down in my bed and just passed the f*** out. And there's probably lots of reasons for this remarkable improvement. It's probably down to the energy efficiency of that Snapdragon platform and also the LTPO 3.0 screen tech. It's probably a little to do with software optimizations running behind the scenes. And when it comes time to power this blower back up again, well, you've got 100 watt SuperVOOC wired charging support. Not quite as nippy as the 150 watt charging on the OnePlus 10T from last year, but you know what, this thing can still be powered up from empty to full in about half an hour. So basically, when you roll out of bed in the morning, just bung a cable in it for 20 minutes while you stagger off to the bathroom to make yourself look and smell less like a hot heap of rancid garbage, and by the time you merrily skip your way back out again, it'll be back to full. However, there is no wireless charging on the OnePlus 11, which is a little bit poo, although I'm guessing for most people it won't be a deal breaker. And let's finish with a look at that camera tech, and Sony's 50 megapixel IMX890 sensor runs the show here, with optical image stabilization to help keep photos clean when the lighting ain't great. I was particularly impressed by the accurate color reproduction even in more ambient conditions. It's not until the light gets really dim that things look a little bit warm, but even then the focus can generally cope as long as you give it a moment. The OnePlus 11 can pick up plenty of intricate details in a scene as well, so most of my test photos looked pretty good even when you zoom in for a closer look. Backing this sensor up is a 32 megapixel portrait shooter using Sony's IMX709 with a 2x optical zoom so you don't have to get right in your subject's face and an adjustable bokeh effect. This proved to be another winner as long as your subject can actually keep quite still. Otherwise, even if they're well lit, they will end up looking soft or a bit fuzzy. You also have a 48 megapixel ultra-wide angle shooter that can fit quite a bit more action into frame, with the trade-off being slightly less realistic tones, but you'll still get sharp, quite good looking results. The OnePlus 11 also serves up plenty of filters to piddle around with, including those Hasselblad efforts also found on Oppo's flagship phones. And speaking of Hasselblad, yes, you do get the iconic orange shutter button, and you get that Hasselblad Pro mode, which allows you to tinker with all of the various camera settings and then shoot in either RAW or RAW Plus. Video is another area where the OnePlus 11 holds its own with a cocksure grasp compared with many flagship rivals. 8K resolution video is impressively smooth and steady, but to save on storage you'll probably just want to stick it on 4K, which still spaffs out great looking footage. It's no Oppo Find X5 Pro at night time, sure, but it's still competent as long as the joint isn't too murky. And I found no issues at all with the audio capture, even if it's a little bit gusty out. As for that 16 megapixel selfie camera, well, this is respectable enough for capturing shareable shots of your face region. Portrait mode generally works well, but take your earbuds out first or half of your ear might disturbingly disappear. And at night you'll want to make use of the screen flash feature so you don't look like a grainy shadow thing. And if you want to shoot some video with that front-facing selfie camera, it does top off at Full HD resolution or 4K option here. Sorry, I'll stop aiming it right up my nose. Audio pickup's absolutely fine though, I've had no issues Skyping or Zooming or anything. And that right there, you lovely lot, is my full final frank review of the OnePlus 11. And I gotta say, using it for a couple of weeks as my full-time smartphone, I got very few complaints indeed. It was a pleasure to use, especially when it came to the battery life and that excellent performance. It doesn't do anything revolutionary, that's for damn sure, but certainly it gets all of the basics more than right. Just a couple of little glitches that I'm sure will be ironed out in updates post-launch. Anyway, that's what this bald wanger reckons, but what do you guys think? Are you tempted by the OnePlus 11? It would definitely be great to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. Please do poke, subscribe and ding that notifications bell for more on the latest and greatest tech, and have yourselves a ruddy, wonderful rest of the week. Cheers everyone, love you!